Well, good morning. I've heard a couple fishermen around here talking about the number of fish that they catch through the ice. And in the summertime, you'll hear, I caught this many fish, or I caught this size. One of the guys in our lake caught a pike that was more than 3 feet long, a northern pike. And I'm thinking, well, that's something to brag about. He had a photograph to prove it in the bottom of his boat. And you could tell by the construction of the boat itself, it was one of those little plastic boats. This was a big fish. And it wasn't photoshopped. It wasn't artificial intelligence. It was this guy telling his story with not video, but pictorial proof that what he was boasting about was really true. And I've heard some fishermen tell fish stories. And if you live in this area, you know what I'm talking about. Well, the Apostle Paul was saying, look, I've experienced all these things, but I'm not going to boast about them. Those are not worth boasting about. And the people there in Corinth who are boasting about their accomplishments and their acquisitions, they're boasting about themselves and why you should listen to them and why you should give them money and why you should do all these things and follow them, give them popularity. He says, that is foolishness. Don't follow someone because he's boasting about this or boasting about that. You can follow someone if he's preaching about Jesus and living the life. He goes on here in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 6 to say that. And if you're just joining us, I know I've started posting these on my Facebook page. If you're just joining us in this process, we've been doing this since COVID started. Started all the way back in John chapter 1, verse 1. Went through John, the book of Acts, the book of Romans, the first letter to the Corinthians, and now the second letter to the Corinthians. So if you're just joining us, I'm glad you're here. Welcome. And the whole idea is that we get to be a part of just a few minutes together in the Word every day, refreshing, encouraging, nourishing our souls. So this is what Paul said about boasting. If I wanted to boast, I would be no fool in doing so because I would be telling the truth. But I won't do it because I don't want anyone to give me credit beyond what they can see in my life or hear in my message. People really don't care how much you know. They don't care what you've done unless they know that you care about them. And Paul has poured out his heart and poured out his life into these believers. And he's saying, don't be listening to all those boasters. And I don't want you to give me credit for any of these things that I could boast about. He said, I'm not going to boast about them. They have nothing to do with me. They're all about Jesus. And his whole goal in life was to introduce people to Jesus Christ, to challenge their philosophy and their belief systems that they'd inherited from the mythologies, from even Judaism, growing up as a Jew. He says now, Christ himself is the covenant through whom we have a relationship with God. And he would boast about that. He said, I don't want you to give me credit for anything except what you see in my life, working with my own hands, being honest and hardworking, and what you hear in my message, what you hear. And examine both. Examine my actions and examine my message. And then you can give the guy credit. As a preacher, it's a great privilege to be able to live in the community and demonstrate how to pay a bill as a Christian, how to interact with neighbors, how to deal with friction and disagreements here in the community as a Christian, and to preach the good news of Jesus Christ. So like the Apostle Paul, I think each one of us should say, we don't want you to give us credit beyond what we do and say, but pay attention to what we do and say. And everything that we as Christ followers do and say should be motivated by the fact we know that God has poured out his love, his grace and mercy into our hearts and our lives. And therefore, we have that same attitude, pouring forth the love of God into the hearts and lives of the people around us with his grace and mercy, because he loves you. And we love you too.